guys, tonight's recipe is for sweet and spicy dipping sauce. It's from the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving. In Canada, it's also printed by Bernardin, and it'll be the exact same book, just published by the Canadian branch of the company. This book is a great resource. It's going to be full of water bath and pressure canning recipes that have all been tested, so you know they're going to be safe. This recipe is going to make 9 jam jars. I call them jam jars, they're 250 ml size. I've got a mix of jars here, some wide mouth, some regular mouth, and that's fine as long as we don't go larger than 250 ml. You shouldn't use a larger jar than what the recipe calls for. I've also got an extra jar here. It's a mini jar, 125 mils. I always add in one more jar than the recipe calls for in a smaller size, just in case the recipe makes a little bit more or a little bit less than called for. That way you have very little waste. Before we get started, we're going to get these jars into the canning pot to warm up while we're prepping. You always want hot product going into hot jars. Because this is a highly acidic recipe, you can use a regular water bath on your stovetop. I'll be using the Ball Fresh Tech water bath canner, which is essentially the same thing except it goes on the countertop. We're going to set this to high so the jars will be warmed up in time. So we've got our 6 cups of white sugar, which seems like a lot, but this is a sweet sauce and sugar is also going to act as a preservative. And we've got our 6 cups of apple cider vinegar at 5% acidity, and we've got half a cup of chopped garlic, and we've got some hot peppers. This recipe calls for pepper flakes, and I didn't find these ones very hot, so we're going to do a 1/4 cup of the red pepper flakes and a 1/4 cup of cayenne pepper flakes that we grew and dried ourselves. And then we've also got 1 tablespoon of canning salt. We're going to take our apple cider vinegar and pour it into a large stainless steel pot. We're going to bring it up to a boil, and once it's at a boil, we're going to add our sugar and whisk that until it's fully dissolved. Once it's all mixed in, we're going to return it to a gentle boil for 5 minutes. After the 5 minutes are up, we're going to remove the pot from the heat and mix in our remaining ingredients. Stir them well to make sure all the flavors get well incorporated. Now that we're ready to fill the jars, we're going to take 1 jar at a time out of the canning pot. Using our funnel, we're going to fill the jars to a 1/2 inch of headspace. Wipe the rim of the jar off with a clean damp cloth and we'll put a new flat lid on. Make sure to only put the ring on to fingertip tight. Over tightening your rings can cause your lids to buckle and cause seal failures. We're going to repeat the same process for the remaining jars. Once they're all back in the canning pot, you want at least 2 inches of water over the top of them. We're going to leave the lid on the pot and turn this up to the canning setting so it comes to a full rolling boil. Once it's at a full boil, we're going to leave it on the canning setting the whole time, and we're going to let it do the full boil for 15 minutes. Once the 15 minutes is up, you're going to turn the heat off and let the jars rest for 5 minutes. Then we'll remove them from the canner onto a cooling rack and let them sit undisturbed for 24 hours. You should hear them ping as they seal, but sometimes they won't make a sound. That's alright. The next day, you should be able to press on the lids and they will already be sucked down. If any of them haven't sealed within 24 hours, you can put the jar into the fridge and use that one right away, or you can reprocess with a new flat lid for 15 minutes again. Sometimes that happens. Don't let it discourage you.